Hello everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to actually just create a simple table, and we're going to do that using the designer. You can use code, like you can actually use a query to create tables. um, I don't do that, and I'm pretty sure only DBAs do that, and I don't even think DBAs like do that half the time. And again, the only time that you would create a table um, when you're doing it in a query is probably when you're either creating a temp table or a temporary table, or within a script, which we're not going to go over. So to create a table, you just want to right click and say new table. It's going to come up with a designer, and then I always have an ID field. My very first one, I always set it to a big int, and then I do not allow nulls because it needs to be a primary key. And then I come down here where it says identity specification. You need to change that to yes, because this is the primary key and it needs to auto increment. So it automatically sets that up for you. And then you can kind of just set these to be whatever you want. So I don't really have any real purpose for this table, um, but nevertheless, that's how you create one, and I'll go ahead and save it. And then it's going to prompt you, what do you want to name this table? Let's just call it test table. Click OK. Close this out. Now, you won't see it here initially. You have to refresh to see it pop up. So you just come down here, right click, refresh, and then we should see our test table somewhere in here. If it doesn't pop up after refreshing there, try just refreshing the entire database. Still not showing up. Oh, here it is. I'm blind. Alright, so we can look it up. We can open it up and we can see that it created our values in here, or the columns that we created. So we can see that the ID is a primary key, it's a big int, and it's not null, and then values 1 and 2 for those columns are nullable. So that's how you create a table. I'm going to go ahead and remove that table. So to remove that table, you just simply right click and say delete. Now, if you wanted to do it via SQL in a query, you can just simply drop the table. And I'll let you Google that to figure out how to drop tables. We won't cover dropping tables in this tutorial. So that's how you create a new table. Pretty easy stuff. Make sure when you're creating your tables, though, that you always create an ID field. As you can see in every one of these, they have an ID field or a column, and it's set as the primary key. They use an integer or small ints. I always use big int, and I recommend a big int. I don't recommend integer. I recommend big int. So, and that's just my preference, and I strongly recommend that you adopt that philosophy as well. But your boss may have different views on how they want the database structured. So adhere to whatever your DBA tells you to do.